Great. Welcome to the Cartoon Pad. We have a very special guest on today. The only cartoonist hanging up in my home, actually. I consider him responsible for a lot of things cartoon-wise in my life, from not quitting from all the rejections to the cartoon books I came out with later. And he has been involved in many of his own books as well, including Cartoon Marriage, which he wrote with the other half of this cartooning power couple, his wife, New Yorker cartoonist Liza Donnelly. Aside from collections of his own work, he wrote the definitive biography of Peter Arno, the mad world of the New Yorker's greatest cartoonists. His Inkspill website is the ultimate news source for all matters New Yorker cartoonists, and he's the leading expert in my mind regarding the New Yorker. Welcome to the show, Michael Maslin.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Marty.
Michael, where are you zooming from?
Home. Where else would I be?
No, well, what's home for you? Where do you call home?
He's in a bus station. Can't you tell from the beautiful bookshelves behind him?
Michael, out in Manitowoc,
Wisconsin. And why are you hanging in Bob's apartment? What's he doing to you?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's okay.
This is all very inside baseball because I arrived late. What happened was I just arrived from visiting Sam Gross. And the day began when I went to see him and he was transferred and no one knew where he was transferred to. So that was the whole beginning of a long afternoon in search of Mr. Samuel Gross. But I did find him, and I think he's doing well. He was very happy to see me. We shared some Charlie Addams stories, which I'm going to share on the podcast. I'm sure you're going to enjoy that. And he says hello to everyone. He actually has some questions for Mr. Maslin for our podcast as well. So it's all good.
Boy. Oh, I should have. Well, since we're not showing this, I can go over there. I want to get something. Talk amongst yourselves.
All right, let's vamp. Bob, really, what happened? You just made all that up.
Oh, God.
Did you get drunk again?
I'll tell the audience. I had to get transferred off for 2 different trains. They moved us all off. And by the end, the place was so jam-packed, nobody could move. So we couldn't exit the train station to go on to, to get outside. It was like sardines. So that's so much for my COVID safety tip of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go get your COVID test now.
Exactly. Michael, what is it you want to show us?
Well, I think I ink-spilled about this, so it's not some sort of big surprise. But I got this online months ago. It's Sam's first book.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I think, he talked about that when he was on the episode, when he was on the pad.
It even came in its little thing that I guess, I don't know, it was sold in that or something. It's a little brown, fragile thing, but it's so great, to see the earliest Sam Gross work.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it in German?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Was ist das?
1956. So
Occupy Germany.
He's asking his daughter to learn German and giving her a short period of time to learn the language. He wants her to rep his work in Germany, and she's going to be the agent.
Oh, wow. Well, I had 7 years of German, but I can't speak any of it. So wie geht's and Dankeschön and beer, I guess.
Yes. Liefermilch.
Yeah.
Dunkel.
Michael, Sam was sharing with me a few stories, and one of them was the first time he sat at the big boys table at the New Yorker lunch. Did he ever tell you that story?
No.
Let me share it. I'll try to keep it short. It's a little long, but I'm going to try to condense it a little bit. And I'm not going to do the imitations that he gave for each person, because for some reason also it seemed a little more politically incorrect than it already is. But the way the story goes was, you have to help me with some of the names. There was an artist named J.J. Sempe, the French artist. He didn't know English, and they needed to find a translator. And Peter Porges was on the kids' table, like the ping pong table they set up, like at Thanksgiving. There's a small B-list table at lunch. And they recruited Peter to join the group so they would have a translator.
I actually do know this story, but please tell it.
Okay, great. You can help me fill in some of the gaps, or you could
I
actually
haven't heard it in a
fact
while.
check.
Or Michael, you can stop him.
Well,
You have that power.
Peter Porges is Sam's best friend. He passed away, but they were best friends. And Peter said, if I go over to the table, I have to bring my buddy Sam. And Sam came along, and it was his first time sitting down with all the big name New Yorker cartoonists. And immediately Peter Porges, who I knew, and he's a real feisty guy, he started locking horns with Charlie Addams. And they were starting to have a little bit of a contest, an alpha contest, who knew the most celebrities. And they were throwing around big names back and forth. And Peter Porges would say, do you know Ruth Norman? And Charles Addams would say, well, I do. Yes. Peter said, how about Ginger Rogers? Yes. Greta Garbo. And he goes, yes. And so he upped the ante and said, have you ever seen Greta Garbo's ass? And Charlie Addams paused for a moment and then said, well, in fact, I have. And he told the story how there was a party going on someplace, and the party was growing and growing to the point that they had to move the party to St. Croix. They all had to get onto a little limbo, shuttle over to jets, and they flew over to St. Croix. And there they stayed overnight. And him being the cartoonist and making the least of anyone else, he was given the worst room in the hotel, which happened to be the very top room, which I would think now is like the best room. It's sort of like that story when lobster was given to the slaves on ships or to the lowest rank on the crew because they were considered the bottom feeders. So anyway, Charles Addams, he says he was on the top room, and Greta Garbo had the room below him with a balcony. And in the morning, she sunbathed naked. And that's how we had an opportunity to see Greta Garbo naked. Speeder had 1 year, and you can tell me if the story is different from what you heard. Peter Porges and Sam is having lunch with the cartoon editor of the Saturday Evening Post, who happens to be, quote, unquote, a good friend of Charles Addams. And she clarifies that actually Charles is quite the gentleman, and that story does not exist. He made that story up because he, in fact, was dating Greta Garbo for 3 years. And he's a gentleman and wouldn't say that. Sam, hearing this, was very impressed. Peter Porges was going bananas hearing this story. His mind was exploding. And Sam went into, I'm trying to think of who the editor would have been at Garrity. He went into Garrity's office, who had been asking him to contribute jokes to Charles Addams cartoons. And Sam went in there and said, if Charlie Addams wants any jokes, they're his to have, because I want to help. And he said that turned him around about that whole thing about just supplying the jokes alone.
That's a completely different story than I heard, but leave it like that.
But Marty, you're muted. Not that I mind it, but you're muted.
Okay, you don't have to yell that. Now I have to cut all that out.
So wait a minute. Charles Addams dated Greta Garbo for 3 years.
I don't think you should cut that out.
Okay, now I can't, because now I got to cut that out too. And I don't want to cut all this out. So now I'm going to keep all this in because I'm too lazy to cut it out.
That's fine. It's cinema verite.
You don't find producers like this off the street.
No.
So wait, let's get back to the story. So I think he just told you the plot to Catch a Thief.
No, and Sam's got so many different weird stories like this.
How's his medication? How's the mix?
No, he's doing fine, and he's stronger than he's been in previous visits. So it's very exciting to see him this way. He actually had a couple of Peter Arno stories as well, and you wanted to know if Michael was aware of some of these stories. One was the stolen car cartoon, which Peter Arno did the cartoon in which Harold Ross, the cartoon editor at the time, actually the art editor who handled cartoons as well, didn't understand the cartoon, but it ran anyway. And Sam feels that this was sort of a landmark cartoon because it was the beginning of cartoons that would be in the New Yorker, but that wasn't so obvious and so understood.
Like that statement?
So I'm muted, right?
No.
Oh, I should.
Lay into Bob. Would you please?
You're just
Someone,
speechless.
you tell Bob.
Well, that
straighten him
story
out.
is true. That story is true that you just, yeah. Ross did not, well, actually, I mean, there's a long section in the Arno book about that story and how it created two factions at the New Yorker. One faction believed Ross knew what the drawing was about, and the other faction, so that was the E.B. White faction, said, of course he knew what it was about. And then there was the Thurber faction that said Ross didn't know what it was about.
That's the cartoon with the rumble seat, correct?
Yeah.
I think we need to describe the cartoon to our listening audience.
Yeah, can you explain it? Because I didn't get it either. Me and Harold Ross were in the same camp.
No, I got it, but so I'm in the other camp.
The caption, Michael, you want to report a stolen
No,
car?
I can't quite remember it, but they're carrying the seat to the car. And I want to say they ran out of gas, but they used the seat for sweet, sweet love. I mean, that was the point.
That is the point. Yeah. I think it's in the book, but I'm not sure. Yeah, they were in the woods with the seat, and here it is. Well, I don't know if I can show this. Oh no,
Sure, describe. Well, we can see it. We enjoy it.
Here it is.
There it is.
Ah, okay, great. Now let's describe it to the audience, which is there's a couple holding up the rumble seat and the rest of the car is missing. Now it makes sense.
Okay.
And the caption is,
we want to report a stolen car. So they were off in the woods.
right.
It's taken.
See, back then there was the rumble seat.
Right.
From which one rumbled.
Right. Correct. And and there's a bit in this book about that.
So, Michael, did
Yasko.
Peter Arno write all his own captions as gags, or were they supplied also?
Well, it was a progressive. I think it was a progressive thing. In the beginning, he wrote most of his stuff, and he admitted it. If you go to that Ladies and Gentlemen collection,
Right. Oh, I have that one.
Okay, so he wrote the introduction, and he lays it right out there. It's very clear. He said that he got too busy and he couldn't keep up with the demand, so he started hiring people to write for him. And but in the beginning, he was doing his own work.
Oh, okay. That was very early for that, wasn't it?
For that, yeah.
For
That's
a
probably like
cartoonist
28 or something, or 29. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know my own dates. I don't know if you guys do, but I'm guessing that's late 20s, maybe very early 30s. But his big man at the end was Richard McAllister, who was the king of gag cartooning. There's that word, Bob Eckstein.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to draw it out of you. Actually, Sam had something to say on this subject, which is he said that Peter Arno famously said, you could correct me if I'm wrong, he said that every cartoonist has about 100 to 200 ideas in them. And then they just run out. And he says he reached his cap and then he needed to have writers, to which Sam says he reminds him he did 32,000 cartoons and he's still not using any writers.
And God bless him. Good for him. Yeah, I don't know if Arno said that, but somebody said, I've heard that before. Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, like 10,000 of them are the exact same cartoon over and over and over again. So,
Yeah, that's
it's
something.
like Virgil Parch. Remember Big George?
Oh, yeah.
I hate Monday. Every Monday would be I hate Monday.
Michael, when did you start submitting to the New Yorker? What started the New Yorker gag cartoon, lifetime of being interested in it and being the authority on it and writing about it and running a website on it? What started all that? What made you?
Well, I remember the moment, because everybody, I guess, they remember their first sale. But I remember the first moment when I was at my then girlfriend's house. I was 16, and her brother, Tom, who was a bit older, was watching me draw all the time. I was just drawing all the time. And he came in one day and he just said to me, why don't you submit to the New Yorker? And it's like, well, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard, It just seemed, for a 16-year-old, I don't know, the New Yorker, no way, Jose, So, but I did submit. and then was rejected by Garrity. That was, he rejected me for about 3 years. And then Lee Lorenz rejected me for another 3 or 4 years. And then finally they bought an idea. And then a few months after that, they bought a drawing. So, it was a long haul. But the obsession began with Thurber, and as Michael knows, I think, it began with Thurber and wanting to be in that magazine because Thurber was in that magazine.
So,
And all those working out, but all those rejections built you up to the acceptance, though. Like if you hadn't had all that time of figuring out how to do it, like you knew you wanted to do it, but maybe you didn't exactly know the gag yet, but you knew that you wanted to do it. You just kept on doing it. Were the early ones, looking back now, are you looking back on like, oh, you're like, man, those were bad ideas.
Terrible. Yeah, the first batch, I wish I had that first batch because they weren't even cartoons. I think they were just things that we would, I would draw in study hall, like weird faces and stuff. They weren't cartoons. So of course they were going to reject them. And that went on probably for a few years. No, it took all those years. I have no regrets because it took all those years to get someplace.
Yeah.
All that stuff had to be done because that early stuff was, I have in a barn here, I have 2 garbage cans full of early drawings. I'm going to bury them.
We'll take them
in the yard. They're just really, they're really bad. But you got to go through that stuff.
There might be some ideas from back then that
could
recycle now.
There's some good ideas in there.
I don't know. I'm not so sure.
So were you looking at the New Yorker? I mean, were you emulating anyone?
Yeah, well, that girlfriend, her parents were the first people I knew that got the New Yorker. So it was there every week, and we'd sit in the living room, and they had a stack of the most recent ones, and that's when I started really looking at them. So that was my beginning education, was seeing them. So all those people, Thurber was like the green light, like boom, and then started learning about all the other people, and all of them became, I tried. I think as we all do, I tried various things on. I was tried to be Stevenson, or tried to be Frank Modell, or tried to be, not Ed Koren. I didn't touch him because, like certain people have that look. You can't.
Yeah, you don't want. It's too obvious that you're
too obvious. So
emulating him. Bob had a bad case of Steinbergitis. He still does.
Yeah.
It flares up. It's like a herpes virus.
And George Booth was.
Yeah, I thought I could do Booth, but I tried once. I go like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, he's already doing it, and he did it and does it beautifully. So, but again, that's another learning thing, right? You have to learn, and it was from all those people. And I still think I look at the magazine every week, as you know, the Monday Tilly Watch. I go through all the cartoons, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's subconscious or unconscious, but learning things even today. So I haven't shut the door on learning.
It's funny. I see the same kind of old classic setups, just different people are doing them now.
Yeah, well, the other day I did a list of all this week's Monday Tilly Watch. I went through all the cartoons, and I just did keywords that came to my mind. And if you look at all those keywords, these are all things that we've all been doing in our minds. Like there's a revolving door of things that we go to, and every one of those are things that I think we all try at some point or another. And they're not. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. People go to desert islands all the time. That's easy, but I forget the cartoons. What I said about them now. I'd have to have that list in front of me. But like Roz did art. People don't do art cartoons too much anymore, right? There used to be a lot in the 50s and 60s. There was even a volume of them. New Yorker cartoon, what was it called? Art and Artists. They don't really do them much anymore. So that was kind of fun to see Roz take on Christo, right?
Yeah, that was a good cartoon. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
I want to explain that the Tilly Watch is part of your website, Inkspill. And inkspill.com is what we were referring to. Is you have all the news there, and you have a sort of a catalog of all the cartoonists, little bios of everyone, and you get a lot of information, anything to do with the New Yorker there.
I try.
You tried. How long have you been doing that?
What, Inkspill or the
Ink spill.
I think it's over 10 years, but I can't remember exactly now. I think it was 2008 when I began, something like that, 2009.
It does seem timeless. I said this thing must have been going on I assumed it's been going on as long as you have. And you used to do it on a big chief tablet just in your room.
The thoughts have been going on, but when I realized when people started doing websites, when back then, and Liza Donnelly, my wife, I say for ID out there, she said, you should have a website. And I was like, okay, I'll have a website. And I had somebody make one for me, or whatever the word is. And then I looked at it, I was like, well, this is really, to me, it's kind of like boring. It's just my work sitting there and nothing's happening. What do you do with it? And that's when I got the idea to make this sort of New Yorker bulletin board. And that's fun. The part that has my work on it sort of died on the vine. I don't go to it anymore.
So do you ever get a little nudge like, Michael, here's a little hot tip that you might want to put in your ink spill?
Yes.
So you get unnamed sources?
Yes. Yeah. Every once in a while people write, usually they do name themselves because they want, be kind of odd to do an unnamed post. Something might be happening November 2nd, but I'm not going to tell you who's
said a source that prefers to remain unnamed.
Right. But that's what I wanted in the beginning. I really wanted everybody in our community to, share their news, and that would be great. That would make my life a whole lot easier. But I'm now so addicted to just going online all day long and looking for news that it's fine. I always find stuff, and yeah.
I admire your staying power too, because it's, you have perseverance, and
well, it's fun. It's fun to another thing that I didn't like before I started the website was I didn't like being surprised. Like I'd go into a Barnes and Noble or whatever it was back then, and I would see like a brand new book by I'll make up the name. Give me a name.
Bob Eckstein.
Bob
Nobody would believe that name.
I know.
Too ridiculous.
And it'd be like, wait, how come I didn't know about this? I feel like
Bob.
it was out, like I should have known about this. And then you think, well, I missed the book event. Bob didn't invite me to his wine and cheese party. So I thought maybe I'll get ahead of this and do news as things are about to happen.
I was walking in front of your house with a large sandwich board promoting the book, trying to get your attention.
That was you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank God for the
it's unlike Bob to not to promote something. Bob's never promoting any of his projects. You never hear from Bob.
No. Any news, Bob? Any
Yeah, Scoop.
There is news. There's always news. Tomorrow, Ken Crimson's going to be featured on CBS Sunday Morning on Friday. That's the question. Something doesn't make sense. But I guess he's referring to just morning show. Is there a CBS morning show?
Sure.
Yeah. It's in the morning. It's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on tomorrow morning.
Great. That's such a great book. I know.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of press. He got written up in Publishers Weekly and some other places.
Starred review.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Good for Ken. Hardworking guy. Hi, Ken, if you're listening.
He's got no second serve, though. We'll put that on record. We communicate a lot about tennis, and I send them tennis tips.
Oh.
So I was going to ask you, what is your daily routine? I'm curious to know, like, how do you juggle being the sort of guardian of the New Yorker history on the website and doing your batches? And
let me just say one thing. I don't know if you were here yet for this, Bob, but Michael was talking about, and Marty were talking about deer, and I tried to find it. I just, as I was waiting to be invited into Marty's room, I was doing a cartoon about deer. Like when somebody's committed a crime, they go to that big window and they to try to pick out the suspect. And it was deer were the suspects in the room. And I was just doing that, like seconds before you guys started talking about deer. It is a cartoon that will never go anywhere, so I don't mind.
Why not? I like the setup so far. So there's a lineup, and someone has to point out who the perpetrator is, and they're all deers.
Well, it involves a Bob Eckstein passion. It involves a snowman. The snowman is wronged, let's say, and the snowman is in there with his lawyer or her lawyer and a couple detectives, and the snowman is going to point out a deer that has wronged him.
I'm giving you permission. Go ahead.
Okay.
You always say that about your ideas. You always say, "Oh, this is never going to go anywhere," but
well, most of them don't.
but, well, you see, this is interesting that you have this modesty, but you've lasted this long. I mean, how many cartoons have you had in the New Yorker? For someone to say it's not going to go anywhere, how many have you had?
I've had my share. Let's put it that way.
I was trying to figure out if you've had the most.
No, not even close. I actually do have a list of how many cartoonists have.
Can I guess number one?
Can we guess? Let us try to guess.
Okay, get my list out here. I believe I know the answer, but go ahead and guess.
I'll go Sean Day.
Nah.
Okay, next.
I'm going to say, what's his name? Stevenson.
Well, that's an interesting one because Stevenson, if you count everything he did for the magazine, he is the most prolific cartoonist.
Ding, 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 ding.
But you have to
hold that ding, Bob.
The asterisk next to that is he wrote a lot of things. So, just if you filter out the cartoons, he is not the most prolific. He's number 3.
I thought we were talking dead. Is this person dead?
Almost everyone in the 1,000 Club is dead.
Michael, you look good on the Zoom.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I wish I was in the 1,000 Club. I'd be happy being dead.
I'm still going with Michael Maslin, number one. Where's my foam hand?
Is it like a? Is it
think cartoon editor?
Not Lorenz. Not
Yes.
Mankoff. Lorenz.
Yeah.
Whoa, talk about conflict of interest.
Well, talk about having the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Also, I have to say, I don't know the exact number for, I think 1 and 2 are probably so close that, we'd have to go in there and count them. But
PCV
would be number 2, possibly number 1. It's hard to know. So it's Lorenz, Steig, Stevenson, Alan Dunn, who for many years was said to be the most prolific, has dropped to number 4, followed by Helen Hokinson, number 5, with almost 1,800.
Wow. And she, I was reading about her, and she didn't write her.
No, she didn't.
She had a co-writer, a writer.
James Parker Reed. Yeah.
Are we not is how close is Roz Chastal in these numbers? Because she's in very often.
But she's well over 1,000.
Yeah.
And of course, she is not dead. She's very much alive.
Correct. She is in the undead category.
Yes.
There are only 3. I'm not going to name the alive ones because that's kind of weird. But there are about 3. I see 3 people that are alive.
You might curse them.
Yeah. And the others, there are about 26 who have gotten over it.
Well, you realize back then, like I was reading the Thurber obituary that you provided by E.B. White, and the most startling thing about it is that it was on page 247.
Yes.
Who has time to read 247 pages in a week?
Yeah. Big issues back then. Huge.
Yeah. And some people appear twice. It wasn't long ago that there were cartoonists who would appear twice in the magazine.
Yeah.
You'd forget they were there if you were on page 65 and up to page 212.
There was one cartoonist, I forget, it might have been Stevenson, who had, I think I noted this on Inksville. He had the cover, he had a talk story, he had, and I think he had 2 cartoons in the same issue. So cover, he had some illustrations in Talk of the Town, and then he had 2 cartoons. I think that was him. That's
Had
pretty-
you been in were you in the big red book?
the big red. You mean the paperback?
Yeah, the big red cartoon book of the
Yes,
New Yorker
yeah.
cartoons.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was originally the big yellow book. I just
That's
wanted
the big
to clear
book.
that up.
Yeah. It's
When
right
people
up-
are in the big book, then they're in. That's like the history books for the New Yorker cartoons because it's so thick. It's got so much in it, and it's such a time capsule. And it's amazing to see the different styles of like clothing. Like when you go like decade by decade, how amazing you can kind of see, just the passing of time and styles and clothes and everything with the fedoras and the whatever.
Yeah.
And Shaw's in there too.
I have
Can you
3.
believe that?
I have 3 and have the distinction of having my signature snipped on one cartoon. So that stuff's about 2004. So there's been like 16 years of cartoons since then.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're, the big 100's coming, and hopefully we
Get
will
a few in there.
a big giant new volume. I hope that would be great. We'll see.
The yellow book made I had young kids back then. It made a great booster chair.
It's big. It requires you have to plan on when you're going to look at it. Right?
Yes. Or you have to lift from the knees.
Well,
Yeah.
they can add to the books, can't they? They can put out a new edition and just have it go from the
They
beginning.
did that. The red one has new material in it. And some of the people were bumped, not some of the people, but some cartoons, I believe, were
So is the red book the encyclopedia or is that a different one?
no, it's a different one.
Okay.
You mean the trope box set?
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a whole other thing. It's heavy too.
It seems like it's gone from having, printed collections and now everything's online.
Mm.
How do you see the future of the cartoon world with the printed page sort of disappearing?
Mm. Yeah. That's well,
Thank you, Maury, for bringing down this party. Really.
I mean,
let's hope
Right.
hope that the New Yorker, continues on and has cartoons. I look at the online magazine every Monday morning. It's posted at 6 a.m. on Monday, and I look at that, and it's really a different experience, as you guys probably know. It's a different experience when the printed magazine comes and you look at the cartoons. They're just different somehow than seeing them on the screen. I think they're better, but let's hope that for the cartoon's sake that the print continues. I have no reason.
Oh, you think they're better in print?
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah. I a lot of cartoons get lost online because when you use washes
Yeah.
and detail, and if you're looking on on your handheld device,
Oh, forget it.
it's a blob.
Yeah. No, you have to. I think the other day I had trouble understanding a cartoon. I may have asked Bob about this one. I can't remember.
I'm still working on it.
I couldn't see who was talking, and I tried to expand it on this small MacBook Air. That's not an ad, but that's what it is. And I still couldn't quite see it. But when the magazine
I
arrived,
see that a lot where I can't tell who's talking. I go, you got a cartoon in, you can at least open the mouth of something. So that's where the dialogue's coming from.
yeah, that goes back to the Harold. In fact, I did write about it. Now I'm remembering. I mentioned the Harold Ross Who's Talking. Remember his famous in the early art meetings, he'd want to know. I mean, it was important who
Yes.
is speaking and where am I in this room? And
My the great story is Harold Ross would make these suggestions and he says, make the dust dustier. Or who he.
It's more than just being in the digital form. There's a grace that's lacked, a charm that's missing, not having on the printed form, because turning the page and it's just a different experience. There's something about the spacing of it too, where in the computer, things are going to be a different size depending on everyone's computer and device.
Mm.
And all of a sudden it becomes less precious and it's more disposable. In
Right.
the same way that, well, I mean, he has a silly metaphor, but like watching The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You had to watch it once a year. It came on. There was your one chance. Now kids watch anything they want at any moment they want, and it loses its specialness. There's something about the magazine being delivered. It's there on paper, and you know.
Well, Bob, not only that, but the cartoon was your reward for wading through that 15,000 word essay on soybeans.
That's right. You were looking for a break.
Yeah.
There's something to that. And
That's
now
true.
also the magazine is spaced a little bit more claustrophobic, whereas in the past, the cartoons could appear almost all full page or across. You didn't know how it was going to be laid out. It was a surprise. And once in a while, for me, the most exciting thing as a cartoonist would be to have the cartoon. My cartoon would run in the front, right at the table of contents. You have a full page. And I was lucky enough to have that happen. A good ratio of my very small amount of sales I've made. I had a few that were in the front where it's full page, right at the table of contents. And it was so exciting. Like you're ushering in the issue.
Yeah. I think that was a Tina Brown innovation. I think.
And Tina Brown now is being played by Kristen Stewart on Broadway. I forgot where is she doing something.
Is that a You're a Good Man, Tina Brown?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I love that.
So Michael, you personally, do you think that you would come out with some books of just your cartoons, collections? We're talking now about all the cartoons, but what about yourself? You have so many. Have you thought about doing a collection of just yours?
Well, that's always, I always thought those, I don't know, when I began, people were doing that sort of automatically. It seemed like that would happen after 5 years, you'd have a collection. And that's exactly what happened with me. Simon Schuster published 4 collections of my cartoons. They weren't thematic. They were just collections of cartoons. And, I never saw I never made money from those, but I didn't think I would actually, but it was great to have them, but I think the publishers realized that those things, maybe that was the end of that kind of thing. And you don't see it often. Roz has been having collections, I think, every once in a while.
Yeah.
Liana Fink, I believe, has a collection coming out. I know she's had one of her Instagram work, but maybe of her New Yorker work. I'm not sure about that. Joe Dater just, has inked out, but that also has writing in it. But you don't see the sort of the classic Jess cartoon collections.
Well, Bruce.
I found the Essentials, series very good, instructive.
That was great, but also not, that had interviews in it, and they were wonderful. But they weren't just like Charles Addams was having collections, just Charles Addams cartoons, page after page. Charlie Barsati had a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Our cartoon library here is filled with those collections. And I was lucky enough to get in there in the late 80s and early 90s with some of those. But I would love to have another one of those. I just don't know what the publishing world is like anymore and whether that is something that
Bob can tell you.
Yeah, but I can tell you this. There's actually a publisher on this podcast who would be more than happy to discuss some terms with you. Our producer Marty wears multiple hats, and he's actually
humorous books. Oh my gosh, I have so many hats. Like literally, I have way too many hats. Like ridiculous hats, like top hats, and I have all kinds of
fedoras.
I have a pith helmet. I have a fedora.
I always wanted a pith helmet.
You can buy one at humorous.shop. I don't know why, but I have one for sale in the shop.
Marty, can we spill beans?
About Nick Downs' book?
Yeah. I mean, as an example. I mean, because Michael, we were talking about we don't see as many collections, but at the same time, theoretically, it's never been easier for a cartoonist to say, I'm going to put out my own book, and I'm not sure you even have creative control of the book.
Yeah. So, with cartoons, you can definitely put out a book and have it be, for sale. And it's the systems that are out now, things are print on demand. So there's no inventory. So there's no way, you're just making money per book. But we put out a wonderful book by the guys here. We have The Elements of Stress.
And
which
that's
is
really
by,
a cartoon collection because the writing in it doesn't make much sense. So it's
No,
just
it doesn't.
cartoon.
It hardly counts as writing because of the amount of typos that are in this book. It's just the cartoons, but it's thematic. So if I think,
I'm a little hurt at this point.
we had
Bob is thick skinned. Okay, now
we had a wonderful book by Ron Hagee, which is all his Trump cartoons for all of 2020. This was a great full color book.
Wonderful cartoonist.
Great cartoonist. So, this is a niche. So if your cartoon book is a niche, I feel like those can sell. So it can be a gift book. So we're doing one, Nick Downs is doing one that's going to be a Law and Order related cartoon. So all the cartoons are going to be crime and lawyery. Right. And that's the niche. And he's got some great, dark, funny cartoons that's going to be coming out next year.
Great. I know that New Yorker book of lawyers was very popular. Remember that one when they were doing the square? They weren't cubes; they were square. The New Yorker book of cat cartoons, the New Yorker book of dog
cat cartoons, pet cartoons do great. Bob has a book he's working on now about cats, right?
Yeah, I just finished that. But Michael, when you were talking about that, people really appreciated that sort of gift. That was such a popular gift to give. And part of it was you walked into bookstores instead of buying things on Amazon. You walked in a bookstore, you browsed, you picked up books, and then you'd say, I don't really want to read. Look at these cute cats. And then you'd see these cartoons by you and Liza did cartoon books and Bruce and so many. It was exciting to find these cartoon books in the bookstores. And that's something we're fighting now is that people are not really browsing, but instead the whole dynamic of book selling is so out of whack.
Well, people are coming back to the independent bookstores, I hear.
Hopefully, yeah.
So but you're right. To a store and then finding these books. I remember when Barnes and Noble had when a bunch of those New Yorker books were redone by another publisher, the golf book, and the kids book, and teachers, I think. And another publisher took them and did new covers, Michael Crawford's baseball book. And I went into a Barnes and Noble one day and there was an island of these things and it was so great.
Yeah.
They made a mountain of them. It was
right.
great.
And they're under that section. So you don't read. Here you go.
Right.
Yeah. You need a gift. You need a gift for under $20.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be here somewhere.
Gifts for the illiterate.
That cat book, I think it was the cat book, was made into a book. I have a New Yorker paperweight here, but it was, it was smaller than this paperweight.
Yeah.
It was like a little hardcover version of that. It was really wonderful.
And I gotta make a segue here that you deserve my thanks because the 3 books that we did, the Ultimate Cartoon Book, which you and Michael are heavily featured in, was because of your encouragement. You kind of kept me, I really was going to pivot away. I was upset with my own work and the way it was going. And you kept on being encouraging to me as a friend. And really, I mean, you kept on saying the same thing. Sam was saying the same thing. To pass the torch on to me, to what he did. He did cats, golf, moms. And, he kept that whole other avenue of work there for cartoonists.
Yeah.
And so,
ho, food.
Yeah.
I think there was another one. Yeah, that was great. And he was a really good editor. He was very fair. And all those books are wonderful. We have them all. They're really nice and hardcover. Some of them I think then came out in paperback. But yeah, you took the torch and made these wonderful books.
And I have to thank everyone else too. All the contributors were so nice. There were so many people who helped me with the book. And then the publisher was Princeton Architectural Press. And they said their top priority was to make something classy. And they think they did.
They did.
I mean, the books are really handsome. So it was really nice of them to have that as their main goal.
Do you know that they're up here by us?
I know, yeah.
I thought they were in Princeton. You would think Princeton Architectural Press, but they're in Hudson, New York, I believe.
I hope you do something with them.
What a scam.
I always thought it was a textbook. I mean, I saw architectural press. I thought I had to learn about brutalism and
Edit
No,
that
Mike-
out.
Corbusier.
Marty, edit that whole part out.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, Michael, anytime they use like Princeton or Oxford, I'm talking to Michael Shaw now.
Yes.
Hey, Oxford's another one. You just put Oxford in the front of something, and they could be like in
I'll buy it.
Liverpool. Doesn't make a difference. Use that Oxford.
Exactly.
Shaw collection coming out. When are we going to see a Michael Shaw collection?
Yeah. Good luck. Marty,
I'd love to. I mean, I think this did really. This
It
was really
we're
is.
a fun book.
negotiating.
Yeah, and I have
And-
to say, you guys love Thurber. One of my guys would be. It was Michael Crawford, Michael Maslin, and Michael Shaw. Those are the
Wow.
three that influenced my work
Mm,
heavily.
Riem. We also make Scotch tape. And,
yes. Minnesota Mining and Mayhem.
Mhm.
But Michael, you should do a collection more of your stuff, and definitely, I mean, I'd like to see.
I
it.
should do a lot of things. So we're gonna discuss our place in the cartoon universe. I found that fascinating.
Oh,
Well, Michael, yeah, do you have an idea where you want to be aside from being the guardian of? Yeah, you're like the New Yorker secretary, the official secretary. But
I think of myself as a busybody, really.
what about your body of work? And Michael's going to explain his thought on that, on his own work.
What about the body of work?
Well, I mean, yours. I'm asking. I'm kind of cornering you. I'm putting you in this uncomfortable position. I could see of assessing your own work. But like, let's make it simpler. Let me ask you this: What do you think of your style? The way it's evolved. I see the changes in your style. Can you speak to that at all about how you're seeing yourself change in your own style?
Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, I like the idea that you've actually seen change, because I never really. This goes back to the very, very, very beginning, as we probably all did, when I was copying comic book stuff, Sunday Funnies, and copying them, trying to draw Batman and Dennis the Menace and all that, and Snoopy. And first of all, I thought, I don't really want to do this every day. I don't want to draw like Dagwood Bumstead every single day, Thank God somebody did.
Make sure you get that button right.
Yeah, but I did not. I did not want to. So that was inspiring to try that out. And I think it also made me think, well, I don't really ever want to be. I don't want my work to just like look the same, even though I think it looks the same, but I don't want it to. I actively try to. I don't consciously try to change it, but I actively try to change it, if that makes any sense. Like I try not to draw the way I draw. Lately, I'll tell you, I've been holding my pen just to make myself not draw the same. Usually when we hold a pen, we hold it down here, or I do. And I've been holding it up here just so I have less, so it's less accurate, let's say.
I tried just holding the pen still and moving the page,
Paper.
but yeah, it didn't go well.
I use my mouth. I just put
Yes.
my pen in my. And
I think
Michael, what type of pen was that you were holding?
I was going to ask that.
that's a rapidograph.
Wow.
This is a more modern one. I did put on Inkspill my little collection over the years. This is the one that I've been using for, I don't know how many years now. Not that many, 5 years.
Michael, that was really a wow. You've never seen a rapidograph?
I've never seen anyone who still used one and not throw it against the wall.
Oh,
Well-
he didn't say he didn't throw it against the wall.
No, well, you have to, where's the thing? There it is. You have
It is the Citroen of pens, the
Oh.
hydraulic system
Lovely.
that when it works is heaven and when it doesn't work is hell.
Well, you have to, it's like, they always say, change your oil filter or something, which I never do.
Yes.
In this case, you have to change your oil filter with the rapidograph I clean it every 2 or 3 days.
It's like a CPAP. I mean,
You
it's
have to-
incessantly needed.
Yes, you have to keep after it, or else it will stop. And once it dries up, you got to get another one.
Are you working on a proper desk now? Or are you still working in some kind of like,
It's a table. It's an old table.
because at one time you were like relegated to like a makeshift closet or something, like a janitorial closet.
It was the former laundry room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I made the desk I bought, what are those things called? Like tongue and groove boards. And I just put them together and rested them on some other boards. But that room has become, I can't go in there anymore. There's too much stuff in there. So I moved out into the living room where I've been for years now. I can almost not get in that other room anymore. There's so much.
I think that's a great sign of aging, that everybody's kind of a universal gauge is, I'm old enough that I can't go into some of these rooms in my own house because there's too much of my own stuff that I'm too lazy to move. So I'm just going to move my stuff and I'm going to sit in the hallway. And that's
Right.
like exactly what I do. I slowly move away from the piles, and I'm like, where's
Right.
another place I can start new piles?
Yeah,
Over
it's-
here. Great.
Yeah, nice and empty here. I've
For
already,
now.
you can see, you know,
Yes.
this thing is already getting things jammed into it. And I think I may move again. I have another spot picked out.
You're
I
planning
think you
ahead.
should. I think you should move into the Algonquin and draw there.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
So Thurber used to go from room to room to room, and he would just throw his shirts into the closet instead of getting them laundered. And when it piled up too much, he just changed rooms. I think that's a beautiful.
Those were the
life.
days.
Yes.
Those were the days. I stayed in the Algonquin once. The New Yorker had some kind of festival, and I think Liza was doing something there. And so they gave her a room, and she invited me to stay there. And we were married. You know.
Yeah. How risque.
Yeah. And I remember our window, I think, looked out on an air shaft or something. It wasn't really what I thought it might be, but you know, it was fine.
That's how Diffie and I got our starts. We won 2/3 of an Algonquin hotel contest, and
Oh.
we got to stay there the weekend. That's
Did you-
how I met him and the
Yeah.
whole crew.
Did you have a good window? Did you have a good view?
I don't remember. I remember they had like this kind of signature cherry wine that you could consume. And then I went down to find the oak room and the round table. And it was a good time. I did not spend a lot of time in the room itself.
You know that when Mancroft became cartoon editor, they had two sessions where they brought in a plywood round table. And I think they put it on sawhorses or something. And then
Yeah, it's not really there. I mean, it's more of a apocryphal tale of wit and whimsy than it's like trying to find the creche of the Christ child. I mean, you're not going to find it, so you're going to see the spirit of what was there.
Actually, they're using holograms now.
Yes.
Well, there is footage. This was a very nice person who worked for Nightline, and they did a Nightline show, I think, about. And I think there's a few moments from that Algonquin roundtable thing that they did. And that was great. I'd like to see the footage. They had 2 sessions with a whole bunch of people. I was at one of the sessions, and they just filmed us talking. Sam was there. I think Sam was at
This was the spoken word series, wasn't it?
Well, people were talking. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I saw my little goodie bag from that.
I don't know what they were doing. I don't remember. We were just all talking, and this microphone kept like bonking us on the head.
Oh, that's different. So.
Yeah.
That's a live podcast.
That was Mr. Benchley. Once he was out of control.
But that footage exists somewhere. It would be fun to see, and I hope it comes to light someday. It's just a message. Don't mind that. Yeah. So what else? So Michael, can we talk? We'll talk about Thurber for a moment. Did you really enjoy yourself in Columbus? Did you?
I lived in Cincinnati at the time, and I started visiting the Thurber house, and I tried to force the family to come with me, and they went once, and they go like, "This is your thing, you go." And actually, yeah, I it was great. I mean, it was sort of like my Mecca, and I basically talked myself into staying there. They had a anniversary of the Thurber house itself. And I said, I'll do a little presentation. And well, they invited me, that part. But I said, I want to spend the night there. I want to be in the attic. And I was shocked to find out the attic was actually a pleasant little apartment.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the night on Hell House. I wanted to be chased by Muggs the dog.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see the ghost that got in. I wanted to leave the house screaming. And none of that happened.
Did
So I
you-
invented.
Did you
But
tap
no,
the typewriter on Thurber's typewriter?
yes, and you want to go like press it, and you go like, how the hell did he do all this on this like 85-pound Underwood?
Unbelievable. And I think there's a sign that says don't touch it. But
Oh yeah, how are you going to not touch something that says don't touch?
Yeah. It's a great place. I'm so glad they did that. And,
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I always wonder about, okay, I want to, so did Thurber and Arno have any sort of relationship? Did they interact in any meaningful way?
well, you mentioned the Algonquin, and in that Arno book, I do mention that they saw each other right before Thurber died in the Algonquin. And they spent some time together just sitting in the lobby reminiscing. So Thurber died in 1961.
Right.
I think that, it was probably just around in there somewhere.
But I mean, in their prime, it seemed like Arno was the person that Thurber wished he was, the raconteur, rake, roue, and here's Thurber bouncing into a wall drunk.
Yeah. I never ran into one of the difficult parts about Arno researching him was that he wasn't a writer. There weren't that many letters. Thurber wrote a lot about his experiences, right? I mean, we have so much that he wrote about, but Arno, the letters were few, very few. And so that part we don't know. I went to Yale thinking that I would find a wonderful letter from Arno to Thurber. When Thurber put together the years with Ross, he went and asked all of his colleagues to weigh in. And those letters are at the library in Yale, the Beinecke, I think it's called. And my prime mission was to find, I hoped, a letter from Arno to Thurber, and there was not a letter there. He never wrote him. I was hoping he would write this thing about, oh yeah, this happened, that happened, but he didn't do it. Other great letters there. I took photos of them. You're allowed to do that.
They spoke on the phone a lot, I heard.
They're right. They spoke.
I think they just ran into each other in the local speakeasy and
Yeah, maybe. But I didn't come across any stuff about them. I think I heard there was a little jealousy, but I'm trying to remember which way the jealousy went.
Oh, Thurber was jealous of everyone. So
No,
I don't think Arno cared. I read Helen Hodkinson found out that Arno was actually being paid more because he drew larger. So she refused to draw until that was rectified.
Yeah, I did hear that she put up a fuss and finally was paid. If there is a lot about Arno in the New Yorker archives at the New York Public Library, a lot of it has to do with money and him
Yes.
going on strike. He did strike for, I think, almost 2 years. And he was really forceful about wanting to be paid more and other things. And I think I say this in the book, I know I do, that he's the one we have to thank for whenever the New Yorker changes or wants to change anything. They always ask us first, right? They don't just change even a comma. They will come to you and say, how does this look? Our grammarian would like to do this. What do you think? I said, okay. And I believe that came out of Arno, who had Ross sign a document that said that if they changed anything, he would be paid more if they changed it without asking him first. He was so tired of changes being done. So I think we might have him to thank for that courtesy that exists today, which is
true. In the last cartoon I had published, they wanted to, it's never write a sonnet on an empty stomach. And it's Shakespeare saying, how shall I compare thee to a bone and ham? Thou art tastier and more versatile at parties. And at the banner, I put a period on it. And they said, do you mind if we take the period off? I said, let me think about it. No, I don't care. So
that was a good change. That made
now when I do a banner, there's no periods.
It's a lot funnier.
I mean, I'm not gonna cause that problem again.
It's fun when they do that, though, isn't it? It's fun when when they come to you with these things. And
I had my signature straightened up once too, and that was the square cartoon. And you sent me the blank cartoon, so
Yeah.
you are the ultimate scrivener of New Yorker history, because I was trying to look for that cartoon the other day, the completely blank one, and I can't find it.
who did it? I can't remember who did it.
I never the gag was like you finally mastered antimatter, Dr. Frumkiss, and it's nothing.
I'll look it up. If, using that, if that word antimatter hyphenated.
And it's felt very kind of 62, 19.
It almost sounds like a Richard McAllister thing. He was very simple. It could have been him. Might have been him. I can almost picture it.
I felt less clever after you sent that to me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's all right.
We should do a spin-off podcast called In the Weeds. You guys
Down
be
the rabbit
co-hosts.
hole.
We just let you guys go. It's a 6-hour program. We just break down punctuation.
Well, let's talk about the big picture.
Yeah, big picture.
Is there one? I don't.
Well, are you working on a new book? Do you want to mention anything about your new book?
Well, it's not done. And who knows when it will be. Well, I'll tell you what it is. And I've written about it, so it's not anything that I haven't said before. It's a memoir of not of my life, like I was born in Montclair, New Jersey, although I may mention that. It's about my relationship with the New Yorker. And next year will be 45 years, which is a lot of years. And I don't know, I've been around and seen all kinds of fun things. And I thought, why the heck not put that down in a book form? And so I have. And I think it's like it's close to being done. I'm fussing with stuff now. I'm just fussing. But it's for me, it's a fun thing to do, to go and revisit these. For some reason, I can remember a lot of things that happened because they were big. When if you're at a party and Charles Addams walks past you and you almost stand in front of him so he talks to you, you remember these kind of things, right? Or sitting on a bench with Steinberg, which I wrote about on Inkspill. That was an amazing experience, to meet these people, these giants. There's nobody was bigger back then than Ed Koren, meeting Ed Koren, sitting at a picnic on a lawn. There's the great Ed Koren sitting there. It was unbelievable to meet him when I was just.
He's a great guy. He's wonderful.
Fabulous guy, a really nice guy, and such a nice man. So I remember all these things really well because they're, it's like, I guess I liken it to if you're an aspiring actor and you meet, name somebody, I don't know, Spencer Tracy or something. It's big. It's a big.
Ginger Rogers, full circle.
Or Ginger Rogers, yeah.
Or Greta Garbo.
Or her, yeah.
It's awkward that everyone keeps on asking him about him. I hope you didn't do that, Michael. That seems a little bit, yeah.
About Greta?
Yeah.
I heard about Charles Addams and Jacqueline Onassis.
Yeah, that's true. Or everyone. Like really.
Whatever that is true.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question, that's close to being done. One of these days, I did ask, I won't name the person, but I asked somebody who has some power over my professional, if you want, professional in quotes, professional career, also in quotes, career. I asked that person if they would look at this thing because I don't really have a clue, like how many feelings I'll be hurting with this thing. So,
it's amazing the years.
But Marty looks happy about that.
Ooh, gossip. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that Bob just loves. Bob loves the scoop. He loves the gossip. He loves the salacious news.
Yeah.
He's always calling me with new things that we can't talk about on the podcast. It's great.
Well, I'm a gentleman.
No, you're our head of hopper.
No.
The years with Ross.
Most of my deep throat source is Bob Eckstein.
He knows everything. I don't know. Everyone tells him stuff, and they shouldn't.
I know. So the years with Ross ruffled a lot of feathers, but when you read it, you're like, why?
Yeah, right.
It felt very benign, but at the time, I guess it really
Wonderful book.
It
All
it
those books cause trouble. You know,
yeah, but I mean, it created a lifelong schism between White and Thurber over what I'm not quite sure.
well, they didn't like the way he portrayed Harold Ross, I think. You know,
But they were very kind to him compared to the real Harold Ross. When you read this book, Genius in Disguise,
great book.
yeah, Harold was crazy.
Wonderful book. One of my favorite books. But all those New Yorker books always cause problems. The Dale Kramer book, Ross and the New Yorker, problems. Gill's book here at the New Yorker caused problems. You know, it's always these camps. People aren't happy.
Yeah, I read it was the New Yorker and the world it created.
Yeah.
That was a great book. And that was all based on secondary knowledge from the New York Library, right? When they released their papers.
Yeah.
Do you think part of this is because you were talking about this precious piece of land, this real estate, the magazine, and there's so many people who are trying to get just a little bit of slice of pie and it becomes competitive? Or is it something that's in my head? I mean, I always just feel like cartoonists it's like the lions in the Coliseum and they're tossing out these pieces of meat and it's just not enough for everyone. It kind of makes everyone competitive and makes people, you know, rethink what people say and what people are saying about other people. It's just so competitive.
Well, it's sad for me to hear that word competitive. I never felt competitive with our friends or at the magazine. I really didn't. I really felt like you know, there are a few people I won't mention who seemed like they weren't all that happy about me.
Bob Eckstein.
But
We could cut that.
Bob.
Part they're all very encouraging, and I never really, you know, I know I'm really naive about this, but I always felt that the cartoon editor was looking at this work, and you know, we can't be in their head, and they're seeing all this stuff, and whenever you know you're rejected, you think, oh, why didn't they take that? And then you think, well, they saw stuff that they really loved, and you know, I made the classic mistake, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, of thinking I did a cartoon. I thought, oh man, this one is, I never do it. You know, it's like sandbagging yourself. I try never to say this is definitely gonna.
Oh, I just did one.
Did you?
Oh, good God.
Wait. So it's two penguins, right?
Oh, good God.
Yeah. It's two penguins.
Gold.
And they've got, penguins are in, and they've got their festive hats on. And the one penguin is saying, and you can tell which one's talking because his mouth is open. How will we know when it's midnight?
Okay, that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Love it.
Pretty good.
It's doomed. Okay, Marty, you can have it.
Nice.
I'll take it after it gets rejected. I'll take it. But I think it has a shot.
I took a cartoon to show Sam today. He's asking me what I'm up to. And I showed him the cartoon that I showed Michael and Marty. They did not like it. I got crickets. I showed it to Sam and he goes, that's a good cartoon. It was smart. And then I went to Nick Downs. I sent him an email, shot him an email today, and he said he agreed. It's a very tasteful drawing of pilgrims and Indians at war with each other. And the banner on the bottom says the second Thanksgiving.
That is the worst cartoon I've ever seen.
I got two thumbs up from Sam. Okay.
They just wanted you to stop talking.
Okay. But Michael, my question about being competitive, I think has more to do with the fact that the markets that existed before are all gone. It's not a question even of the taste of the editor at the New Yorker as much as I'm not saying, anything about that as much as there's a smaller real estate outside the New Yorker. There's no more Mad, there's no more Playboy, there's no more Barron's and Harvard Business Review and all these other venues. So that's why it's become so competitive. Everyone's squished into a clown's car.
Yeah, I love drawing those too. They're fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you put
it
the
runs on humor?
Back, big key, the big and then flowers, and they're fun to draw. But you know what's funny though, when I started, Lee Lorenz was in there was an article in the early 80s, which I have somewhere, it's in a box. And Woman's Wear Daily of all things, Lee Lorenz article. And he said that he felt that, I said something like, I don't really know why people get into this business, because there's very little place for them to show their work. And that was back in the 80s. So the fact that we even have any markets left at all is encouraging, I think.
Well, there's no drop-off day, right? You've never dropped off. I mean,
when I lived in the city, I dropped off from 77 to 80.
Oh, you did? I heard apocryphally, I guess, that you never attended those affairs.
No, well, to be technical, and this is, I'll try not to make it too weedsy, but you guys know this. I would go in to the building, go up the elevator, get off in the hallway, and leave my package at the window and then leave. I was not going back to the, I've never sat with any of our cartoon or art editors, never sat down with Lee or Mankoff or Emma and showed them my work. And it's, it works better that way. I think.
It's worked out for you. I congratulate you.
Yeah, that worked. But your story would have been so much better if you said you went to the building, you dropped off the envelope, and then you like set off a firecracker, or you screamed, "Aha!" and you went running down the hallway or something like that.
Yeah.
And that would be your thing.
Yeah.
Being a vandal.
Yes. Thurber used to throw trash cans down the hallway.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You see, He had a thing. So having a thing, made him like have a niche. I like that.
Well, I like that I could go there and not talk to anybody and get out of there and not talk to anybody. The first time I did that, I was like, wow, I can do this. You don't talk to anybody.
All you're going to do is get in trouble if you talk to somebody.
Yeah. The woman behind the glass didn't say anything to me. She just accepted the package and I left. And I thought, this is wonderful. I don't have to.
You know what? So many times I was in the green room at the New Yorker about to meet whichever the cartoon editor was at the time. And I would have this feeling, I'm about to say something really stupid. And sure enough,
Bob, you have that feeling a lot.
A little bit. Feeling it right now, that tingling is coming back.
Your spider sense.
Yeah.
But you had great, Bob. You used to, when he would be in the lounge, I guess I'd get texts from you or emails or something, and sort of reporting on the scene.
Yeah, how many people were there?
Yeah,
who was showing the vibe? Yeah,
it was great. It was really nice to. That's historic stuff. How it was developing in those days. That was good. So I lived through your experience, and Liza as well. Liza would go in and meet with everybody, and but I just never. I had a really bad experience. I only took my work once to a cartoon editor at Ladies' Home Journal. I went to the New Yorker. I was trying to replicate the old bringing your work around. You remember?
Yes, the Tuesday.
You hear the veterans talk about
Yes.
that, right? And the only one that was left then was Ladies' Home Journal. So I went over there and I sat down knees to knees with the cartoon editor, this woman, I don't know her name, and she looked at my work and she said, "I don't see anything here I haven't seen before, period." and it was like, wow, this is really rude and devastating and horrible. What a horrible experience.
Do you have any casserole cartoons?
Yeah. I think the New Yorker published one, but it should have been a Ladies' Home Journal. I think I did one about Vermont or something. A covered dish. Yeah, it's a covered dish.
I did a lasagna cartoon, and it indicated like what the layers contained, and like one of them would be like your taxes. One was marinara sauce, cheese.
Nice. Sounds like.
And speaking of lasagna, I want to give Marty a shout out because he named Garfield as his favorite cartoon character
Absolutely.
of all time.
Well,
Jim Davis.
I used to have, my older sister used to have the Garfield, the long books, the long collection books, which they would take the weekly and the daily strips, and they started putting them in the books. And they made it into a thing where you would want to buy the next one because you'd have a collection of these Garfield cartoon books, the same way that they do anything with these book collections, like whether it's Winnie the Pooh, whatever. So I would always have these cartoon Garfield books, and they were great. And it was fun noticing how Jim Davis changed the way that Garfield looked throughout. From the very beginning, Garfield looked totally different than 10 years later, or even less, probably. Like the way that his drawing evolved was very interesting, and it was very easy jokes. They were blunt. John Arbuckle was an idiot. Odie was an idiot. Garfield was the smartest thing ever, and it was simple. And I would just sit and read my Garfield books. I loved them. But I love Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes was like the next book that I got into. The next character when I was smarter and still a child I was obsessed with Calvin and Hobbes, and Bill Watterson was just a genius who was so reclusive and so just like the opposite in every way of Jim Davis. Like
he was a grouch. So the moral of that story is Jim Davis's net worth is $800 million.
Thank you, Michael.
Good.
You're welcome.
We have questions from listeners.
Ooh.
I'm just going to skip ahead to just the one that came up more than once because it's just too much to go through and I don't want to keep you forever. But there's a question of resubmissions. People are very curious to know if you ever resubmit some of your cartoons.
Well, not anymore, really. I did that for a little while, and I didn't like it because to me it was like a crutch, and I didn't want that, so I stopped. I will say one of my all-time personal favorite cartoons of my own cartoons was one that I submitted 1 week, and it was rejected, and I felt so strongly about it. I submitted it the following week, and they bought it, and that was probably the end of when I would do that, and that was quite a while ago. That was probably in the 90s, and then I stopped. But I don't like. I like coming up with new stuff. So I don't know.
Do you see yourself? Do you see yourself going on like Dragon Jags? Because I noticed like Maslin's on the Dragons. It's
Dragons, Cowboys were
or Knights. Because this one I just saw recently I thought was really funny, and your cartoons hang more on their captions than almost anyone else's, because it's the caption that really ignites the humor.
Well, Bruce Kaplan is also.
Yeah, I was going to say Michael and Bruce as well. Michael,
I think Michael gives you more to look at.
Oh, true. I agree.
So apocryphally, again, I've heard that there's 2 Kaplan cartoons, identical ones, have appeared, but they printed one twice, but I've never found it.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know about that.
So that's something to search. But it's the one where the knights are being attacked and all the arrows are going to one guy.
Right.
And the gag is something like, this seems more personal than professional.
Right. Yeah. That was fun to draw. A
lot of arrows.
Yeah. I like drawing that. I just, that goes back to being a kid, right? I mean, cowboys and knights and all that stuff. It's just so much fun to draw them.
And you had the big frog. I think the gag was something like, are you sure he wasn't a prince when you saw him? I mean,
right. The frog. Yeah. I like drawing frogs too.
But there's your captions have such a turn to them that there's like a lot going on, but you still get the joke out there very crisply.
Well, thank you.
So.
But it's I really thank the whoever the cartoon gods are for these things, because they really I think of them as just accidents. They just happen. They come along, and it's, I don't know. I think,
see, Bob, we should have more accidents.
Yeah,
I need more. I want to play couch psychiatrist for just a second. And I always felt, looking at your cartoons, the subject matter that it covers, you are doing some of the things I'm trying to do, where I learned from John Cleese's seminars, which is to get into a state of playfulness and allow your mind to wander. And sometimes you venture back to your childhood. And I've always felt your cartoons have a real childlike quality, and it touches on those subjects that really move us. And is there anything to that? Or because
there's a lot to that. Around this house, and Liza and I have said this in public many times, so I'm not spilling any beans, whatever,
or ink.
Yeah,
is that Liza, as you guys know, Liza, we say this about each other's work, is that she does work about something and I do work about nothing. And I think that's true. It's like I'm I don't like try to craft something to say something, or, I just, as I say, these things just sort of happen. A lot of times I'll be sitting at this desk. It's not really a desk, it's a table. And I'll go 5 feet to make coffee, and on my way there with nothing in my brain whatsoever, how you do things sometimes automatically, right? You just you walk someplace, you're not really thinking. And a caption for something I worked on an hour before just comes out of the blue. It's like it just, airmailed in. And
I have to visit you more often and walk down that hallway.
Yeah.
bring in
Bob,
that.
that happens to Bob after a tortured, sleepless night and wringing wet bed sheets.
Well, it's funny. You're a power couple. And one of the weirdest things to me about your situation, is that you and Liza do not share your cartoons with each other.
Oh, it's deadly. Yeah.
I've been sharing cartoons with the neighbor and people who I don't even know in the park. And I don't know how you were able to keep it from each other, because
It's important because, I think we have to live in these bubbles that we've created, that what we're doing that week is going to go, it's something in here is gold, it's going to work. And all it takes, if I showed it to Liza, all it takes is for her to pause 2 seconds and not, be doubled over in laughter. And it's like, well, okay, this is horrible. This doesn't work. And so why do that to each other? So
I would welcome that. My wife says, stop it already.
No,
Enough.
it's true. It's if my wife doesn't get it, it's got a chance. She goes, that's not funny. I go, oh yeah, okay, I got it. So,
well, I don't want to take that chance of anything. I just want to do these drawings and then send them off and continue drawing.
well, you're doing a fine job of that.
That's
So
right.
Yeah.
congratulations.
Great job.
No,
On
thank you.
that note, we should end it there, because that's because I had that feeling again. I'm going to say something really stupid.
Well, please say.
That's from all that wood falling on you.
Oh, the wood stacking. No one's going to understand that, but I am doing some serious wood stacking. And if anyone out there is doing the same, stop what you're doing and wait till I get out there to film it.
You did not respond to my email the other day. I told you I moved a wood pile about 2 feet.
I was afraid to say something. What you do with your wood is your business. And I also didn't want to discourage you. I don't think I should look at your batch or your pile.
He thought that was code. He thought that was code for something.
Oh, no, it's real wood. It just needs to be moved back. And
when you cut wood, you warm yourself twice. I'm just telling you that.
That's the new ending for our podcast. And so on that note, let it be written. So let it be drawn. Let's conclude this episode of the Cartoon Pet. Michael Maslin, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, all of you, all three of you.
For
all three of us.
Them too. I'm sure this will be recorded and played over and over.
Oh yeah, did Marty record
Your
this?
secrets.
I forgot to record it, everybody. Sorry.
Okay.
That's okay. It's a good warm up.
We're gonna have to start again.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
See you soon, maybe.
And he's the funny one of the batch.
Yeah, soon enough, we're gonna have to have big cartoon event gatherings like you guys used to do. You guys used to get together at diners and talk about cartoons
Yes,
and show your
let's
batches.
all
Didn't that
meet
used to happen?
Let's all meet at the Pergola des Artistes.
That would be great. Nice.
They do a lovely lamb shank.
I'm still getting together with my gang, and Michael has a gang up by his place at the breakfast place. And I wanted to know if it's weekends or is it weekdays now that you're doing that?
Me? Oh,
Yeah.
That's not me.
Thursdays or Fridays.
Okay.
It's up to my schedule is I don't have a schedule, and I've learned to work whenever I can get.
I sense you're a morning drawer, not.
I am a morning drawer. Yes, I am.
Yes, that's what. Got to
but
draw in the morning.
John Cuneo is the and then we have a wonderful guy who's a screenwriter, Mark Burns. He wrote Married to the Mob, he's the other part of this trio, and sometimes Peter Steiner, the famous
Yes.
on
The detective novelist.
and the novelist. Yeah. So there's a nice little group. You guys are all invited. I know it's a hike for at least one of you. It's a pretty big hike.
Yeah, Nick Downs wants to go with me and carpool up there.
Great. Please.
The only
show.
thing is he does want to talk cartoons, but you guys don't just talk cartoons, right? You talk just lounging, and it's like sort of a Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. thing going on.
My.
It's all over the place. The other day we talked scary movies, which I never watched.
Oh, this sounds like fun. I'm inviting myself to this, and I will drive Bob. I'll drive you and Nick in my car.
You
because
guys
my
rec-
car
and-
has more than 3 wheels and like a bucket seat.
Michael, you come across the lake. We'll get you.
No,
on-
I want you guys to record it.
We'll live stream you.
So what, Michael? You own a Morgan, 3 wheels and a bucket seat.
Who? Me?
Bob
No.
does. Bob's
Bob,
Mini.
oh.
Only
Wait, first
three.
of all,
Only 3 of the wheels work on his Mini,
Okay.
and
no,
that was
that's
a
not
Morgan.
true. And Michael knows that I make an entrance that's in style, and it's going to have to be the Mini or nothing else.
okay.
The Mini is a very appropriate vehicle to take up there. That's the way to do it right.
I will drive behind you then. It's fine.
We'll see. I'll try to lose you.
I'm sure that won't be hard to do.
See you Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
we'll be there.
Great.
And thanks for coming on. And sorry if I'm late. I'm
All right.
embarrassed.
All right, Bob.
Okay, Bob.
Okay, Bob. Bye, Michael.
Bye.
Bye, Marty.
Bye.
Bye, Bob. You did the ending. Thanks for your time. This time, till next time. So long.
Now all of a sudden you become Mr. the Soundbite.
My baseball
Where was that when we needed
takes a
it?
real winner to be a good loser.